to my new digs. I'm finally in my own place. I'm here in Melton South in Melbourne on the western side. I'm an eastern side girl. I've lived in the southeast most of my life. So to come out to the west is quite radical and it feels so different and it's refreshing. I feel like I've moved to a different country. It's really nice. So I've had this overwhelming encouragement from the universe to finally come and share with you what I got a long time ago. And when I first stepped up and came out with this technology, for some reason I really copped it. Like, I don't know why it triggered so many people, but I got a lot of abuse. And I thought, whoa, okay, life's tough enough. I will go back, I'll strip it back, and I'll see what's missing. Now that was in 2016. It's now 2022. And I've had the opportunity to have helped many people, but also go through so much, and to practice an experiment. For some reason in this life, I'm here to experiment with absolutely everything. I can't take anyone's word for anything. I have to experience things, and I have to completely have everything just turn into a shambles and practice and work it out for myself. It's just what's so. So I went through a really big period of time when I broke up with a partner that I loved a lot. And of course, it wasn't the right relationship, but I had really opened up and invested a lot in that relationship. And it was because of that, the not wanting more roadkill, the not wanting to have what was the writing on the wall, was that it was coming to a massive end. And it was only me who wanted to do the work. And the other person expected me to do the work while they did none. So there were some pretty harsh realizations, but I was so determined to work out my role in it. And I had spent decades doing hardcore sadhana, spiritual practice, classical tantric practices. And at the end of the day, it was like, well, what really matters? What of all this really matters? And I did work it out. I did come up with a way, or I came up with a way of reconfiguring things so that you didn't have to really go down the path I'd gone down of decades of hardcore work, which I loved. I don't begrudge that at all. So I lost that, and then there was a great scandal in my spiritual community, and we had to face that. And I watched how some people who were old-time yogis didn't do so well. And it just really brought a lot home. And then, of course, stepped up and I brought this technology out and then got egged. And kept going, but I kept going just with the classical tantric work. But then I had to go through so much more, very chronic health. And then we've had COVID, and I've been through a period of homelessness. So it has definitely been something that I can say has been practiced, is tried and true, and has absolutely got me through every time. There is always a way to get through everything. And I tell you, I've had it all thrown at me consistently. I have not caught a break. And I have not at any time faced having to give up my spirituality, because I know it, because I've experienced it, I've lived it, I've imbibed it and embodied it. So it's not something I never had to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but I had to refine it in some way to make it easier. And the other thing that I found fascinating was, as you'll hear me talk a lot, is the amount of bullshit out there that even in the tradition I'm from, there's tons of it. And that is that well, it's a misunderstanding, really. It's kind of correct, but it's a misunderstanding. What is happy and what is healthy and what is well-being and what is prosperous. And we have this unfortunate belief from people who really don't understand or haven't had enough depth of their own experience of the self and of their own awareness and of consciousness. When the great beings and teachers talk about, well, you can always be happy, you can always be well, and all this sort of thing, we don't understand really what that means. We take it at face value. So then I've literally had people say to me, well, you mustn't know what you're talking about if you have chronic health issues, or if you are constantly going through these sets of tsunamis all the time. And it's a shallowness and a limited knowledge in people, I'm afraid. It's ignorance, actually. And I had that at one point. There was a time where I was in a position where I could kind of manifest anything I wanted, where I could kind of constantly cure and heal myself. But then it wasn't until the chronic illness that wouldn't go away hit, and how much I had to be okay with it, which luckily, you know, I know the steps, I know the role, and I actually had to pull away from people, and particularly some friends that I dearly loved, friends that might have been healers and spiritual teachers that really hadn't done enough of their own sadhana. They were friends of mine, and they were the ones I had to pull away from because they had bought into the superficiality. I think what's so important at the end of all of this, from all my journeys and travels, and now having earned the badge of being in my 50s and very experienced woman, it is all about our humanity. It is all about our ability to ride with what's present and to stop putting judgments and expectations on things that may or may not happen. And if they do or if they don't happen, has nothing to do with your level of awareness, your level of attainment, your level of spirituality. That's actually BS. In fact, the thing that is the meter is your ability to critically self-reflect, to come from the self, to love all, to have that sense of humanity and serving humanity and understanding the beauty of it, and to lose the good and the bad, you know, the jewel. So to bring everything in as the one really is it. And how your life plays out is just how your life plays out. When I had my awakening at 11 and I got the laws of karma in the way that an 11-year-old can understand, it was a game changer. And as much as I've toyed with, luckily I do have to experiment with everything. I don't take anything anymore on face value. I can't. I'm put through the ringer too much. I've experimented with it, and the laws of karma really are the most fundamental laws of the universe, and understanding them really is your way through, and doing things in a certain way that utilizes those laws of karma. And that's what I've done. I have done that. I really have. I have tweaked things, and I have cobbled together things, and I have come up with a surefire way. Now, saying that, any system can be completely misused by someone with the wrong intentions. If also someone is coming from their ego and not being humble enough, then they will miss the subtleties of it. There's some things that are incredibly upfront and obvious, and other things are terribly subtle. There are times when you're just going to be left with you. Most of the time, in fact, you're just going to be left with you, and you're going to have to pull on your own ability for reality and depth and truth. Now, for people who in this life aren't designed for that, so they may have some kind of a disorder or what have you that they've developed, they will look on the surface like they're doing the work, and this is what I got from my ex-partner, this is what was going on. And they will look like it on the surface, but when push comes to shove, they can't do it. They can't be humble. They can't face themselves. They can't accept their role in anything. They can't be personally responsible. So the delusion is just going to be there. So please don't think that's ever going to go away. You have to be on the lookout at all times for delusion. It's always going to rear its ugly little head, no matter how realized you are. So I would say on this journey, be prepared to just be a bigger version of you. Be honest, be real, and know that that is not what society is engaged in, and that is not what society understands. You will be hugely misunderstood. And as I have experienced, you may even be persecuted at times and cut off by people for your level of realness, because it disrupts people and it challenges them. So you're not for everyone, and it really is only about you. Your connection to yourself, your understanding of yourself, your self-knowledge, big S, little s, both of them, you as who you are as a person, and your origins, which are where your focus should be. That is the most important. When I first came out with this technology, I called it the Once meditation and the Spanda method, and that's, I think, where I got in trouble, because for me it was predominantly the teaching of what you are attached to and what you are averse to is what causes the majority of your suffering. And that is so true. We are always either running towards something or desiring or craving something, or we are acting in reaction to it. We're pushing it away and not wanting it. And it really is the bottom line. But of course, there are other teachings out there that have used the word wants and what have you, and desires, and taken it. But of course, where they fall very short is their lack of experience in hardcore spirituality, in karma, in the overall laws of the universe. And because of that, then can come the deluded issue of everything that you have in front of you is your fault. And that is absolutely fundamentally not true. It's so not true. I want to relieve you of that limiting belief. In some ways, from a divine perspective, when you're looking at things from your soul's evolution, 100%. But you have plenty of things that happen in this life that are a curveball, that come unexpectedly, that you definitely did not ever think about, did not want, and couldn't have even conceived in a million years. Some people only have that once or twice. Some people like me have it once or twice a year. You know, but, you know, obviously I was meant to design something to be of help to humanity. So it really, I'd like to say it definitely transcends dogma. And it stops getting into the loop of having to think you have to know something about a particular philosophical or religious system, even though that's where I've drawn it all from. And it puts everything square on your shoulders. And it's going to require faith, dedication, persistence, commitment, humiliation at times, pain, as you are overcoming your ego and seeing your tendencies. But at the end of the day, you will never have a more rewarding life experience. So I no longer call it the Once meditation. I call it your word. Now I know that's been used a lot as well, but I think there's going to be less connection to other very popular systems of belief at the moment. And it came from that experience that I told you at the very beginning. I had to realize what it was. Why was I in so much pain and agony at the loss of another relationship that I dearly wanted to work, even though they were not at the same stage, actually, as me, and not with the same level of dedication. They certainly weren't ready to milk the situation for the nectar that was available. So I had to kind of let them go, and I wanted to let it go with love. I didn't want the past experiences anymore. And what that did, when I reflected on the fact that we're always wanting something or we're pushing something away, I had to look at the story in my life. And then I used self-inquiry and inquired into the three main centers. And I realized that there is a map. I realized that there is a word. You have a word, and you actually have 3 words, and the other 2 are your pathway, the pathway to your words. And in a system that I came from, a tantric philosophy, Kashmir Shaivism, and that completely matched the lesson I got in my awakening, was that language creates the universe. Language is incredibly powerful. And I was told at that time, my language is terribly powerful and I have to be careful with it. I have to watch it. So word is everything. Your word will create your reality. Now I say that, please don't take that on surface value. You have to do the work to know the nuances and divine and lower nature perspectives on things. And yeah, that's what I'm here for. That's how I can help. So I'm going to start talking about your word. And the other thing I love about it, it is your North Star. It is your road to follow. It is your navigation system. But you have to do the work. I can give you the tools. I can give you the guidelines. I can give the outlines. It's up to you now. You take it, you work with it. If you manipulate it, that's up to you. And I'd say 90% of people will. It takes incredible depth of being to be able to face yourself and to be able to go through what you will go through. Because if you are here to evolve, you're going to have to go through things to put that into practice. It's not a mental process at all. So I am here now. I'm going to really share so much of this. Just know that it is a culmination of a lot of dedication, a lot of decades of work, and not just the superficial stuff, coffee table, Woman's Weekly version of things, which is rife out there. And I'm sorry to sound arrogant. I have that side to me. But it's true. There are so many traps and loopholes, and I see people who are potentially great yogis fall into it and they just drop like flies. It's very rare that you do the course and you can get to the finish line. It's got nothing to do with, what feathers you wear, what crystals you've got, what yoga postures you can do. They can all help to keep you grounded and on purpose, but absolutely not. At the end of the day, it's 100% on awareness and your relationship to it and your understanding of it and your experience and embodying of it. There is absolutely nothing else, and it's not easy, and you're not always going to be happy, and you're going to go through all sorts of karmas and things, and you might end up unwell, and you might lose people, and you might go through stuff. Jesus, that's life. Please stop thinking that there's some kind of utopia. We constantly are trying to escape reality. Constantly. We're going for things that we think will make us happier, and we're running away from what is present. And therein lies our suffering. And anything that teaches that and just that, and anything that happens in between is your fault, is actually delusional. I like things that help you lose the grip on the push on life and the control very much. But I don't like things that don't keep you very real and very humble and very able to be in the down and the gritty of yourself and of humanity. Because that's honestly what I have learnt. That's what it is all about. To be okay with that. To be okay with it. There isn't the extremes of the good and the bad and the beautiful and the ugly. There is just all of it is the one thing. the one consciousness with different forms of expression. And sometimes that expression will be kind to you, and other times it'll be brutal to you. And some people go through things that are so unbelievably unfair and unkind. And we can't wrap our head around what that must have been like. And other people go through absolutely pretty much nothing. And what we have to watch for is when that happens, we usually don't have a great ability to be with another person in what they're going through and have empathy and understanding. And we really need to, I think, with the world going through this great transition, and with the levels of mental illness out there, and the arguing and the bickering and the cultural snobbery and hatred, and it's just so ridiculous. Rise above it, people. Rise above it, and at the same time embrace everybody, embrace humanity, embrace what is going on. And trust me, you can get through anything. It might break you, but if you can manage to keep a broad mind and an open heart, it made you. It's okay to break. It's okay to cry. It's okay to fall. It's okay to just be who the hell you are and stop thinking you have to change and become this perfect something or other, because that is so not what all this is about. If we go back to the great teachings of the great beings and all the good, great books from so many traditions, they all suffered. They all had to play things out. They all were dysfunctional in some ways and did some really stupid things. It's trying to teach us that more than the miracles. We get tied up in the miracles and think, well, I don't want this suffering. This makes me feel like I'm puny or I'm being judged or whatever. So I'm going to go for the miracles and pretend to be something I'm not. And we're missing it. We're all missing it. This feels really nice. Welcome to my home. Welcome to Mahadevi Dham, as she's going through transitions herself. And hopefully one day, well, not hopefully, one day we'll be in the country. We'll be somewhere with water and building a little village. And it's going to be really gorgeous. Lots of love. Stay tuned for a lot more. But that was my big rambling. They're going to be sound bites, I promise, with a few more ramblings. Jai Ma.